everyone for attending today. We're really excited about this event. I'm Crystal Bryce with Embark Women. I'm the founder. We have Arafat here, who does a lot of behind-the-scenes work for us. He's an Embark Woman man. And then we have Needy, and she is my right-hand woman, so she's amazing. Carlos from Sparktrust is doing our videography and a lot of our photos today. And if you see these amazing shirts we're wearing, Joanna Gifford from Physiology Apparel did those for us. So we have a lot of really great support that we're so excited about. We're just thrilled to be here today. We're thrilled to talk about some favorite failures. So we have our panelists. We have Cherie from Granite Girls. Charlene, she's a, let me see if I can get this right this time, professor of nursing.
Yes.
Okay, and then Ruthie down here. They're both very little. Ruthie is an entrepreneur. She's an enthusiast. She does a lot just in the community. She's involved in a lot. So these women come from different backgrounds, and they have a lot of really interesting stories. So when I met some of these ladies, and just as others in the community, we got to talking, I realized that, you know, we can help each other, we can support each other in some special ways that maybe others can't. So I thought it would be great to bring these women and their stories to the community. And then the community got on board and several others, and then we got the support of the graduate school here. Dr. Wolf is amazing. So here we are now. That's the intro, and now we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. So we're discussing favorite failures. Ruthie actually coined this term for us. She came up with it. We've been talking about, you know, what are some things that maybe hold us back sometimes as women. So what I'd like to start with is just really conversational, but what are failures? So how do we define failures? So Cherie, what would you say?
I was doing live. Anyway, just I'm not going to do that. Favorite failures.
How do you define a failure?
Define a failure as when you make a big mistake. Maybe it's a big mistake to you and not to others, and you're able to, there's always a way to find a solution for anything that you've done incorrectly. And it's how you handle your solution instead of freaking out. Of course you will freak out a little bit first, but think about how am I going to overcome this and working on your solution for the problem.
So what about you ladies? Anyone else have a different take on what failure is? Or a different take versus how you once thought of failures versus now?
I think that my perspective on failures has changed through the years. I think that there really is no true failure. I think that everything you do is a learning opportunity. And I think what changes is your perspective on it. I used to be a competitive athlete, and I used to set goals for myself, and if I didn't, I'll give you an example. My very first marathon, my goal was a time that would allow me to qualify for Boston. And I did not get that time. Even though I won my age category, I felt like a failure. You know, but looking back on it, I won my age category in my first marathon. Hello, that is not a failure, right?
Right.
And so what I learned to ask myself, and I, you know, when I teach my students, what you have to ask yourself is, in this moment, whatever it is that you're doing, did you give 100% of your best? And if you gave 100% and you did the very best that you could on that particular day, then that is not a failure, even if you didn't achieve what you thought you wanted to achieve. So I think my definition of failure has changed as I've matured. And so what I try to do now is whatever endeavor, I try to set myself multiple goals. Instead of just the Nirvana goal, I set a goal. I would be okay if, I would be happy if, and this is my Nirvana goal. And then, you know, like for that marathon, for instance, the weather was terrible. The winds were so strong that actually when I was crossing this bridge, I saw someone's metal building blowing apart. So, you know, and I did give 100% of my best. So sometimes you have to adjust what your goals are. And I think no matter what you consider your failure, you can take pieces of that. After you've had your failure, ask yourself, what was good about this event opportunity, and where do I have opportunity for growth? So I think that's part of failures, is what can you take from it to propel you on to your next success?
Ruthie, anything to add to that? Because I know, because you are still, I mean, you've been through a lot, you have a lot of experience.
I'm
but
the best failure on the panel. Is what
she's the best at failing. No, I can't take that. But.
I actually told someone that. I was like, I'm going to speak on a panel. And they're like, really? I'm like, it's on failure. And they're like, oh, okay.
Can everyone hear Charlene and Ruthie?
I can hold it closer to my face. Sorry, y'all.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah,
So this would be our third failure of the day. So I feel like we're doing really, really well
That's
considering
great.
the topic. So this is good.
I had a poll driving into the parking lot today,
So,
but I called campus police, and so.
and what can you do?
And you're
did
still on
you,
time?
I was honest, yes,
and you learned not to hit poles.
right.
So.
All right, we're getting there, people.
It was
Technical
attached to my
failure.
necklace.
Sorry, we could help you instead. We're just all gonna watch.
It's fine, it's
Yeah.
a failure, guys.
I feel like what you both said was very, very well said. And as I was thinking about failure, I realized that my definition of failure has developed with me over time. And it's not until recently that I've realized that a true failure is really just self-condemnation. Because what we've already heard is failure is something to learn from. No one's perfect always, so to expect to never make a mistake is simply unrealistic. But I think the moments when I felt absolute failure is when I could not justify over the shame I was putting on myself that I could get past this. You know what I mean? I wasn't able to own up what I did wrong and move past it. So I think that when you find yourself just sitting in that rut and you can't get out, to me that's true failure, but it's our own fault, if we're being honest.
So can we talk about that a little bit? I'd love to hear some actual examples of failures. I mean, I have some doozies, but I think some of you have some good ones too that we can all learn from. But can we talk about that? What were some of your failures, memorable failures, maybe recent ones or your first ones that you remember? But what did you do to get out of that rut, to not get stuck? So, Sheree, you have some good stories?
Tiny ones and big ones. Tiny one, as I started as the Granite Girl, I was working with Mr. Conaway, and he owns a huge business. They build lots of houses. He's retired now, but his son still did the business, and he asked me to put granite in his home. And I was like, oh, great, that's awesome. So I went in and I measured the whole kitchen, never turned around looking that there was an island there. Didn't measure it, sent him a bid, and then he called me into his office and he said, are you sure you really want to go with this bid? He said, you want to look at the plans again? So I looked at the plans, and then I was checking my measurements because I had mine with me, my drawing, and he said, you're missing something. I went, oh my God, which is about 25, 30 square feet. And when you're very young into a business, you don't have money to put granite into someone's house. So I turned around and looked at him and I said, and I almost started crying, of course, you know, because when we're young and we're women and we're trying to work with a big businessman. And so I looked at him, I looked down at that, and I said, well, this is a bid, not an invoice. I'll have to change that prior to giving you your invoice. And he said, fair enough. And so a lot of times your solution, if you can process it fast enough and not cry over it, my biggest, and I'll try to make my life story pretty short, but at around 20, graduating from TJC, Apache Bell, I'd gone to Gorman, I was a good kid. And somehow I decided in college that drugs and alcohol was a great solution. Started out as fun and became a part of my life for the next 20 years. I got in a lot of trouble right out of college and had some huge failures. And it wasn't just personal, they put it on the front page of the Tyler paper. So then you've got to live that down. And drugs and alcohol, you know, don't go the way I went. I run a great business now, but those failures created more failures And I never knew what to do about it, so I ran, and I left Tyler. One day when God created the miracle for me to become sober through lots of different circumstances, I became sober through AA. I moved back home and decided that I wanted to start my business, the Granite Girls, 20 years ago. And I thought, no one will ever forgive me. Everybody's always going to judge me. They're never going to buy thousands and thousands of dollars or build a house with me because they're going to look at me as that person. And I'm here to tell you that people will forgive, they can forget, and they will watch you. So one failure will not create a lifetime of failures. If you can get yourself up from the biggest failure in my life, create a company, and do what you say you're going to do, and people will watch you. And through that, I've been able to help others. There's a lot of reward in being on board of directors, on being in AA for me. I'm not anonymous because I didn't drink anonymously. And being on the front page of the paper, people know your stuff. And so you've got to be able to look past your failure and humble yourself enough to say, you know what, I can kickstart this thing again. And so I know with my personal story, you can recreate your life, you can be who you want to be, and if you fail, you recreate again. And you continue to do so till you find your path, what works for you, and I kind of feel like if I can do it, anybody can do it. I began Granite Girls with less than $800 and a tiny little business plan, and she's, Granite Girl is well over $1 million company now, and I make a great living, and I love what I do, and then I've been able to start some other businesses. So that's kind of my short and sweet of my life story, where always know that you can.
And this is that's one of the reasons why when I met Cherie, I thought we've got to get her out here in front of other people because she will tell her story. You have to be very brave and vulnerable to be able to do that. But if she went through what she did and overcame, it reminds me of the Phoenix, the rebirth. We can all do that. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's just such an honor to hear. So that's hard to follow, I will say, but I do appreciate that. But Charlene, I know you're in the nursing industry. I have a little background. Charlene is a sister-in-law of mine, so but she has some incredible stories. I don't know what you want to share, but
I want to talk to them about how I got into nursing in the first place. So how I got into nursing was a failure. I originally wanted to coach track and teach English because that was my life in high school. I ran and I was good at it and I loved English, so I was going to go to the Olympics and I was going to teach English. And that's all I did. I ran before school, I ran on my lunch hour, I ran with the boys track team, I ran with the girls track team. That was my life. And to be really good at a sport, it kind of devours you. And so I went to college and I blew out my knee. And I made my first B ever in my English class. My English professor hated me. And I thought my first paper was very witty. It rhymed the entire 16 pages. And he gave me a B. And I was just like, okay, my knee is blown out and I suck at English. What am I going to do with my life? I really was at kind of a low, because if that is what you have planned to do your entire life, it can really be devastating. And I came home because, my life was over, and I got into personal training, and I worked as an exercise physiologist. And I worked at Willis Knighton in Shreveport. I did really dive myself into that. I got the highest specialty certification you could get for that. And the reason that I went to nursing school is because the nurses made more than me. That's it. I went to nursing school because I needed more money. By this time, I had a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old, and I needed more money. I did not go to nursing school because I wanted to take care of people and all those brilliant things that everybody tells you. I went to nursing school to make more money, but I fell into my calling. When I did my clinical in CVICU, and it was this beautiful kind of ballet of people working together without even speaking and taking care of this really sick patient. The heavens opened and the angels sang, and I said, that is what I am meant to do. This is where I'm meant to be, because even when I went to school, I was simply going to get my nursing degree and go back and be the director of the facility that I work at and make more money. And I completely changed paths because I found that that is what appealed to me. And when I went into CVICU, I was only going to do that for a couple of years, and then I was going to go on and I was going to teach. And I stayed in CVICU for 14 years because I loved it so much. The only reason I ever left CVICU to work in all of the ICUs in the ER is because I needed to stretch myself. Where I was working had kind of become like those old fuzzy slippers that you never give away, but you don't want anybody to see you in. You just slip in, right? I mean, come on, you all have those shoes in your house. You know you do. And I was like, I am too comfortable. This is too comfortable. I need to stretch myself. So one of my mottos is do hard things. Do hard things. Like, what is it that's do hard things? And what I hated the most in the critical care discipline was neuro. So I got neuro certified and I started doing that. There shouldn't be anything that is scary to you. Whatever it is that scares you, go out and be the expert at it. So I did critical care nursing and all along the way I taught. I'm an ACLS instructor, a CPR instructor, onboarding new nurses. And in the last 3 years, I've gone to teaching. And it's so funny, everything that I've been through in my life has kind of come full circle. Now I am a professor of nursing, so I get that teaching piece that I wanted to do at the very beginning. And what I teach is critical care. And it is the best to finally get to a place where you're putting all the experiences that you've gathered through your life. And that's what you guys should take from this is whatever it is you go through, whatever it is that you find as a failure, it's really going to be a tool that you put in your tool chest, and somewhere down the road you're going to use it. And it's all going to come together and you're going to find this perfect place for you. So that's my failure.
I love the do hard things that can be scary. You touched on things being scary. Ruthie, I don't know what story you had planned to share, but I'd love to hear sort of your take on that. And as a woman, because this is a woman's, kind of focused group. I mean, we all fail, men and women, we all fail. But I find for myself, I'm really hard on myself. I don't have yet to meet a man who took failure as personally as I do, as hard as I am on myself. So do you think that there's a difference, or how do you cope? What have you noticed being a woman, and what experiences have you had?
That's a great question. So my background before I moved back to Tyler, my role was working at a community and economic development firm. And straight out of college, I studied dietetics, so I thought I would be in the medical field, and got swooped up into this world of community development that I totally fell in love with. And very quickly, they asked me to be their executive of community development there, which meant my primary role was managing a business incubator. So I was working with these 50-year-old men that had their kind of standard 9-to-5 career and were wanting to spin off their own company. I was judging MBA competitions, and I'm like, have they seen me? I'm a child. I studied nutrition. What do these people see in me, and why are they giving me this authority? And you can imagine how many times I put my foot in my mouth, not being at all prepared for this place that I found myself. And I feel like we promised y'all some laughs, so I'll tell you the most memorable and funny one real quick. So as the executive of community development, I oversaw, we had a music venue, an art gallery, an urban farming initiative, an educational program, and I kind of was the mom of these little baby programs. And so anytime something concerning those things would come in, my sweet boss, who was the president of our company, would say, oh, Ruthie will take that meeting. And so I found myself one day in a meeting with a tequila producer who wanted desperately to put his tequila in our music venue. And I'm like, okay, yeah, bring in your tequila. Let's see how good it is. And so this man comes with like 4 types of tequila, and he brings them in what's essentially plastic shot glasses. And it's me and my boss, the president of our company, who's a probably 55-year-old Hispanic man that loves tequila and knows it well. I mean, you couldn't touch this man with tequila. It would take the whole bottle. And me, I'm like, tiny, hadn't had lunch that day, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I know a lot about tequila. And so this man is pouring us slowly. We have 5 little shots. He's pouring us 1 of each, and I'm pretending, yeah, it's smooth. It's very good tequila. Yes. And so we're going through first, second, third, fourth. And finally I get to the last one, that's very good too. And out of the corner of my eye, I'm so engaged. You know, I'm being professional. I'm so engaged with the tequila maker. Out of the corner of my eye, I look and see that my boss has only taken a sip of this. And I have just drinking 5 full little shots of tequila in that moment where you go, can I feel my legs? Can I walk straight? Am I really drunk right now? I don't even know. Like, there was just this moment where I'm trying to fool everyone that I know what I'm doing, and I'm like, I'm going to try to walk and just fall on my face. I just know it. I accidentally got drunk in a meeting. And the truth is, I made it out. I kept my face on. My boss was like, all right. And from then on, he told every meeting that I met with, Ruthie can drink here at the table. And I got the most respect I've ever gotten, but I think that what I've learned from constantly being in those situations is the only way for me to get over just being mortified and disappointed in myself and just feeling so ashamed that I didn't know this was to be honest. And my boss was a kind man, and I would just have to be vulnerable and say, I'm really sorry, I didn't know that. And he's like, it's fine. You know, because he's handling failure like a man. He's like, you did fine, move on. And I just needed that. I learned that I had to be vulnerable enough to tell one safe person, hey, I'm really winging this, or I really feel like I could have done that better. And I needed his affirmation to say, hey, you did okay. You made it, you walked straight, you know? And from then on, I continued to, we'd like go to NASA, and I'd be like, yes, this is a very neat water ball. And be like, don't touch that. I'm like, great, it's not a water ball. You know, things like that. And I continued to, but it was interesting because I got to see how men handled failure too, these full-grown men. You know, some were stoic, some were frustrated, but no one handled it so personally as I did. And I think it's because I am a woman, and I felt like I was representing all women everywhere. And when I failed, I was like, this is why they didn't want to let us vote. You know, I'm like, they're gonna think all women are like this, you know? Because I felt so much that I put my stake in this manhood, and anything I did would reflect poorly on women. So that kind of answers your question.
Well, I love what you said about you had that one safe person to kind of confide in and be vulnerable and say, look, I just didn't know. And that actually really, I mean, I think that resonates with probably all of us, but that is something what Embark Women is trying to create, is that safe environment where we can come together and, you know, I can go to Cherie and say, oh, I had this huge blunder, you know, I need to get it off my chest. You know, do you have any suggestions or advice? I mean, I love having a place where I can be honest, completely honest with myself and with others, and I won't be judged. And that's what we're doing here today. We're trying to break down some of these barriers that we have, I think, between each other sometimes, but we don't need to, but I think even in our own minds and heads. So thank you for, that was really great. So I think what I'd like to talk about now is how do you know when enough is enough, like when to quit on something, because it is a part of failure. You know, sometimes it's insanity to completely do the same thing over and over again, right? So any tips for, we have several students here, we all had different journeys, we've all pivoted, so how did you know? When was the right time for you? Did you have the person to confide in, or any sort of tips, pointers for that?
My experience is that I accidentally would find mentors. No one could teach me the granite business, because I was making this up. No one was doing it in Tyler. And so I would call Dallas and get prices on a pretend-like house, and then I would know how to price the house I'm bidding on. And the reason I chose that is because I love to make things beautiful. So it was my passion. my degree was in fashion merchandising, which, you know, I guess it's fashion in a home. As I built my business, I truly believe that God laid people in my path to trip over. So my mom, of course, was my best mentor of all, because her and my father ran an entrepreneurial business, and it was a printing business, which y'all don't even know what a printer is. I mean, we used to actually have to print. There wasn't computers, and they had to lay it out. Mother actually typed on what we know now as a computer, which is just a glorified typewriter. But anyway, finding mentors in the sort of the field you're in, or maybe not the field you're in, but being able to run things by other women you meet, or men, and don't be afraid to ask those questions that may sound really stupid to you, but allow yourself to ask your mentors and tell them what's going on. And as I built my business, a lot of men became my mentors, because I'm in a very male-dominated field. And you know, I didn't want to look less than, I didn't want to feel uneducated, but when you don't know what they're talking about, and you're like, yeah, you just went over my head, when they're talking about a build, then go ahead and find out, because don't be afraid to hit that thing you don't know anything about, so that you're able to be educated on the next venture. And so when I would walk in a job and I was measuring, a little failure happened one time, and I learned a real valuable lesson. So when you're using a tape measure, never read it upside down. Because when you write down that measurement, and always have someone look at your measurement, like, you know, measure, then you cut. Because I read 69, and I'm just sure it was 69. But when the piece got there and it was supposed to be 96, there was like a gap area. So when you have to eat gracefully an entire piece of granite, then you learn that don't ever read your tape measure upside down. There's a lot of times you don't have to ask anybody. But you will see those things pop up in any kind of business where you need mentoring, you need people. And whether you're on a board of directors with only men in the Builders Association, or you're on a board of directors with Habitat for Humanity, where I really learned how to build a house. And it was an all-women's build. So my mom and my sisters and some other, all these women built a house, and I thought, I don't have to just be the granite girl. I could be a builder. I could be a remodeler. And I never actually had done that in my own jobs. I just, my fingernails are painted. I don't want to paint. I don't want to lift the granite. It's too heavy. But, you learn to work with what's given to you and lead men. I've never been that boss that walks in and say, you need to do this and you need to do that. It's always easier to walk in and be positive and say, that's a really great job, but I would like for you on this other thing to do this instead of what you did. And so there's always solutions, but don't be afraid to ask somebody that may know more than you dumb questions, because this is how we learn.
I think, to Crystal's point about when is enough, when it's not fun anymore. That's one of the reasons that I love nursing, because you can do so many different things in nursing. And when you're dreading doing whatever it is you're doing, then maybe that's not the right fit for you, and move on to something else. The other thing, to your point, is have somebody that is, do you guys have that one friend that's brutally honest? If you don't find that person that is not going to tell you what you think you want to hear. I got burned out in nursing at one point, and so I took a break from nursing, and I was the fitness program and development director for a YMCA, and I was working 60 hours a week on a salary, creating all these programs, making nothing. And my best friend, who's was my labor partner for 2 of my children, one of the things I love about her is she's always brutally honest. And so when I call, having my pity party on the phone, she's like, stop the bus. You are an awesome nurse. What the heck are you doing? Get back in the hospital. And I needed someone to tell me that because that's exactly the point. I went there to take a break and I got eaten alive by diving into all this stuff and I got away from what it is that I really love. Yes, I was helping people, but not the way that I loved. And I needed somebody to tell me, not to say, oh, you poor beautiful thing, to say, get out of that situation and go back in the hospital. So I hope that you guys all have that person in your life, but I do. She and I have been friends for about 22 years, and we still do that. You know, if she's having a pity party, or if I'm having a pity party, we are able to like tell each other, this is what you need to do. I know you, I've been in the birthing room with you, hello, you know, get back in the hospital. So when it's not fun anymore, then maybe it's time to move on to something else.
And just as a side note, I'm listening to this and I'm going, this is why, you know, we're a bunch of women mostly, we've got some guys. But because, I mean, who can say, like, I don't know if I've ever heard some guys be like, oh man, let's go get a beer, I need to have a pity party.
Right.
You know, it's, but we do, that does something for us. So I think there's something to what you're saying. I appreciate having those friends that I can have a little bit of a pity party with, but then those people who will also tell me, okay, Crystal, you know, enough is enough. You can do this. I think that's the point too, is you can get up from this. So Ruthie, what do you think is relevant for, we have quite a few students, and you're a little closer to that age than I am, so.
I look like I'm 17. So, maybe.
It's okay. Good, don't ever grow up.
Well, so when I think of failures of like when do you just give up, what comes to mind is there was one point when I was asked to write grants for our company, and they're called SBIR grants, Small Business Innovation Research Grants. And if you've ever heard of those, they're like, they used to be really cool and easy to get, and they've become one of the most competitive national grants. They're $100,000 multi-year grants. And Sweet Boss, who likes to tell people I could drink them under the table, was like, you can do that. You can do 2. You should do 2 of those. And I'm like, they're due when? He's like, in 2 months. And I'm like, okay, these are 800-hour technical writing grants. And it's just not my wheelhouse, not even a little. Like, you just thinking about it makes me want to cry. Like, I was so bad. And I remember every day, I would sit at my computer and just go, come out, grant, language, come on. Like, it was just like nothing would happen. And I had a sweet coworker, and I just told her, I need to be honest, like, I haven't written anything in a week. And she's like, she said something, some southern phrase, and I might butcher it. She's like, you can't juice blood out of a leek or something like that. And I was like, what does that mean? She's like, you can't squeeze thoughts out of your head if they're not there. Sometimes they're just not. And I begged and begged to bring someone in on those grants because all I saw was $200,000 that our company was not going to get because I can't write freaking grants. I'm just so bad at it. And it wasn't until, he made me do the whole thing, kind of up to the end, and I submitted probably the worst grants anyone has ever seen, just knowing so well in my heart that this was not a success. To the end, it was like failure, failure, failure. And we got to the end, and we submitted them frantically, like 30 minutes before they were due. And I just kind of looked at my boss, and I was like, well, and he was like, okay. He's like, now you can manage someone else to do that. And it was funny because it's like the sick thing, like Mr. Miyagi thing, where he wanted me to wax on, wax off. And he didn't know that he was teaching me to manage someone else to write a grant, but I just, to this day, like, I just knew that in my heart that was not something that I would ever be good at. And I know that feeling, and but it's been really empowering in a way, because since then I'll interview for a job, and a lot of the coolest jobs in the world, just in case you're wondering, are run on grants. So good luck. No, I didn't mean to say it like that. But if you want to run a business that, for example, just feeds kids from gardens or something like that, no one's getting money from that. Someone's having to give you money to make that happen, and that's a really discouraging realization. But as I was moving forward in my career, I just knew that would never be a job for me. And so it was a sad truth, but I've learned so much from that. Now when I walk into a job, I say, I don't do grants. I'm not going to be the development person. That's never going to be me. I'm sorry, I'll manage an intern because I know how hard it is. I'll bring them cookies and coffee while they write my grants, but I'm not going to do it. So.
I think that's important. So for now, we didn't get through all the questions that I had hoped to, but this was great because it was just a very fluid conversation. But I really would love to hear any kind of questions, or even if it's just a story you want to share. It doesn't have to be a question. But I think all of us, I mean, I have failures on a regular basis. I've had to learn from them, but we have some fabulous women here that we can pick the brains of. So does anyone have a question or anything they want to share? Do we have another mic?
That works.
Well, I need Needy to get a little exercise. So she's gonna run her. Okay, it's whatever you want, but
I'm terrible on microphones. I'll try.
I'll hold it for you.
no, you're gonna overcome that failure today.
I'm loud though. Okay. So I just want to say I think all of you said this, but something that I heard specifically come from you. You said our failures do not define us. And so, and you can come back from that. I think that's something that's so important. Okay, I can't do it.
It's not you. I'm like, what happened? Did you jinx yourself? Because it's not you at all.
So yeah, just knowing that we can get up again and we're not people forget about stuff, or maybe they respect you more for coming back from something. So I think that it's good to, and also just in general today, to hear all of this earlier to all of you, and it's great to. I'm glad you did this.
Yeah. We have another question or a comment.
To start, or I think as women we probably have our own fears in our head, oh, I'm not gonna do better, I'm not gonna do this that well, or how about fears to even start, or even to fears of failure?
So one of the things that I do every single year, do hard things is one of my motto. I've run 3 marathons, 13 triathlons, and 13 half marathons. And the reason I do them, I was a sprinter in college, guys, not a long distance runner. The reason I do them is because it's hard. And when you do hard things, and when you own what it is that you fear, it makes you a stronger person. When I got out of nursing school, I was already an ACLS instructor. That means I knew how to run codes. But what scared me was putting down NG tubes, because those patients gag. And so instead of avoiding NG tubes and asking the other people to do it, I was like, this is not gonna be something that I'm afraid of. I'm gonna get good at this. So every time there was an opportunity, I jumped into it. So whatever it is that you fear, make that one of your goals. Every year I set myself, a mental goal, a physical goal, and a spiritual goal. And I try to make them really hard. When you dive into those things that you fear, that's what makes you a stronger person. And you realize you can do this.
But
you are able to do this.
Where does that strength come from? Because I know for myself, that sounds amazing, and I do at this point try to do hard things, but I think because of years of experience of failing and knowing it's not going to kill me, I'm not going to die. But where do you draw that strength from? Where do you to even approach
I think
that?
one of the things that you do is you look around yourself and you say, if Ethel May can do it, I can do it too. That's what I would do. I'd be like, other people have done this. If they can do it, I can do it too. And when I run, I pick out goals. You should make this is my big goal, but you got to have your steps along the way and make them doable. And that's how you get to that hard thing. And in a marathon, for instance, marathoning is not fun, okay? 20 miles is okay, I really love 20 miles, but the last 6 miles is extremely difficult, and it's this mental battle, and so you have to talk yourself through baby steps. Every single marathon I've ran, at mile 20, it's like the devil and the angel. I start telling myself, how many people do you know that have run 20 miles? You're amazing, you've done 20 miles. Why don't you stop now? There's a bus you can get on. You can go back and have drinks and coffee. Come on, do this. And then the good side of you says, you only have 6 more miles to go. And then the devil says, but that could take you an hour, right? And so it's this mental battle in your head. And so then what I tell myself is, let's do 1 more mile and then we'll negotiate. We'll look at it. So I break down this huge thing, especially the last 6 miles of the marathon, I literally have this conversation with myself and I negotiate with myself where I say, you know what, I know that your legs aren't working anymore. When you pass pink shorts up there, we can think about dropping out. Or when you get to that sign, we can think about it. And you just talk your way through. And then eventually you get to this point where maybe you have like a mile and a half left and you're like, seriously, are you gonna quit with a mile and a half left? You can do this.
So let me add to this that I've gone running with Charlene before, and this is not a pretty sight. So I wanted to say that everyone has their own version of this, I think, and I think that's important too. Like yours might not look like Charlene used to tell me, come on, Crystal, it's another, okay, we're gonna go 3 miles, just go, you can do 1 more mile. I'm like, Charlene, I'm thinking about 5 more steps, you know, and if I can make it 5 more steps, I'll renegotiate with myself for 5 more steps. But that actually worked for me. So I think you need to know yourself and meet yourself where you're at, but you can still use these same techniques. So Cherie, do you have anything, like how do you motivate yourself to take on that challenge when you're really freaked out about it?
Fear can paralyze you if you allow it to. And obviously, since I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous, 1 day at a time, sometimes it's 1 hour at a time. And every now and then it's 1 minute at a time. And so when you get into a place of fear, find a way, like she said, to just move a little bit forward. You may not accomplish the entire goal, but if you can move forward each time, and if I would just make it through a day. And I started my business jumping out on a leap of faith. Really didn't have a strong business plan. I think I jotted down a few things. And I was scared to death to fail in front of Tyler because I was for sure everybody was watching me because I'm pretty important. And so when you get out there and I would make up stuff. It was the silliest thing. One time a lady wanted to see more samples than the samples I had at the time. And I said, well, I did see a really pretty color at Dillard's. They just put some new flooring down. Let's go look at that for your countertop. I mean, who does that? But she met me at Dillard's. She didn't know any better. And so a lot of times you make up stuff. We sat there by that escalator. I showed her this color on the floor. She's like, I think that's going to be perfect. And we thought that was perfectly fine. I mean, nowadays there's hundreds of thousands of colors. But be willing to be flexible. The key to my success is flexibility. And trust me, even in just the last week, some huge things went down. And I'm willing to be flexible on those because I birthed that baby. That's my baby. I don't have any children. The Granite girl is my child, but she's 20 and she needs to move out, you know? But, you know, some other things laid in front of me to do other opportunities. And at that time, I decided, you know what? I can do Granite Girls and other things. And part of it was Embark. And what the weirdest reason why I even wanted to do Embark is I was watching the women when our new president got elected, and everybody's always, because, you know, there's two sides. It's half and half. And so the women were marching, and I watched some of the stars that got up there and spoke. And I thought, you know, that's not really how I feel. I would like to empower women in a more positive way instead of saying, we're going to go back to the 20s. You know, well, no, we're not. If you live in the real world, that's not what's happening. I'm a builder, and only men built back then. I'm pretty sure there's 3 women in Tyler building now. So be aware that if you can lift people around you, they're going to lift you too. Being of service to someone else always helps you. So when I share my program, when I share my knowledge, if you think it's easy to just come up here and tell or even talk, I was scared when I got here. I hit a pole on the way in the parking lot because I was already nervous about getting in front of complete strangers. But you know, every day I get out of my box, I get out of my comfort zone, and I do something for others, you're going to gain. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't let the fear paralyze you. Walk one step forward if that's all you can do in one day. Take a little task and make it happen. I started $1 million business on $800. You don't have to go in debt. You are smart, and you can make whatever dream you want to have. You can make it a reality, and you can do it by flying by the seat of your pants, if that's, because that's how I did it. There wasn't a degree to go get. So you're very fortunate that you're getting all this knowledge, and then you can go out in the world and help others, and they're going to help you to succeed.
And I love what you just said, and Ruthie actually has something that she's told me a few times, the Me Too factor, and it kind of reminds me, the Me Too, what we're doing here is sharing, we all are going to screw up at some point, and if I tell you about my screw-ups, then it makes them a little less scary maybe for you when you get to them, vice versa. But Ruthie, could you share the Me Too, your kind of, what you feel Embark does, or just having, a support system?
Absolutely. So, I don't know. I think that the longer I live, and especially as women, we've all met those women that are prettier than you and smarter than you and can run way more than you ever could. And your friends, that there's kind of like this wall, you know what I mean? You're like, I'm just intimidated by you. If we're being honest, it's like we're like neck and neck maybe, but we, as women, whether we want to admit it or not, there's this weird competitive insecurity that can often creep into our lives. And the only antidote for that is vulnerability. And I think that we have a dear friend, Beth, that you've probably met, most of you. And she's a mentor. And she always says, never, ever, ever, ever stop asking for help. And I said, that's right. Because you know what asking for help is? Admitting you don't have all your stuff together. Admitting that you are not the full package and that you don't have it all going on. And as soon as you're willing to kind of bow your head a little bit and say, look, I'm getting there. That's where friendship is born. That's where those Me Too are born. And it's just so important. We're just not willing to kind of give up our grasp on our, like, the only thing I have is people's impression of me. I'm in ruins on the inside, and people don't know that. But as soon as we're willing to say, this is scary to me, this is makes me nervous, all of those things, the sooner that you'll receive those Me Too's. And those Me Too's are oftentimes the only thing that is going to keep you from calling yourself a failure, if we're being honest. And going just a little bit further on your question, I really resonate with that as someone that studied to help malnourished kids in third world countries and ended up helping running music venues like in the middle of the city. What am I doing with my life? This is not my plan. I just remember feeling so lost. And so what I would tell you is wherever you end up, don't make your goal, I want to do this, I want to do that necessarily, but who do you want to be? So I want to be like this, and I think about that oftentimes just with failure. Who do I want to be when I have failures? What kind of person do I want to be when those failures come? And I want to be the kind of woman that says, whew, that was rough. Sorry, everybody. Can we move on? I want to be that person, but how often do I not become that person because I'm too focused on becoming the achievement version of that? So just be kind to yourself as you're in college. I thought I was going to be like the chicest dressed young professional. I thought I was going to marry the guy I was dating. I thought I was going to feed children in, the ghetto. I thought all these things, and I found myself going, what am I doing?
You found yourself drinking a bunch of tequila.
I found myself drinking tequila with men in dark conference rooms. Guys, you don't know where you're going to end up. The world is crazy. So just decide who you want to be on the inside. And everything around you is going to change. So if you're lucky, you want to be a doctor when you grow up and you become a doctor. But that just doesn't happen most of the time. So work on being who you want to be.
And I want to say real quick, for me, one of my biggest, what allows me to take on the adventures I want to take on is actually really is the support, having just that one person. And I would love to be that person for anybody because I've been so blessed to have many of those people in my life. So if there's anyone out here who's like, I want to try this adventure. I want to start a business. I want to, whatever, go rollerblading down the street, even though I don't know how to stop. And I've like jumped into so many people's yards trying to not kill myself. But if you want to do something, reach out to us. I mean, we have so many great women in our group who are saying, we want to connect with others. We want to be that person for others. So if you don't already have that, let us know and connect. But are there any other stories or any other questions out here that we could chat about? We do have a few more minutes. It's okay to be vulnerable.
And one of the things I want to say, if you don't know what it is that you want to do, because I know that if there's college students in here, sometimes it's like, I have to get the perfect place to begin with. What I tell my nursing students, because nursing is varied, wherever you start is not a life sentence. It's not a life sentence, right? So be okay with, this is where I'm going to start, and I'm going to take what I can from this experience, and I'm going to move on. Because I know, like, I have 5 kids, and I have kids in their 20s, and I have all the way down to a 4-year-old. And my kids are, very, my 20s, my kids in their 20s, I've got to pick the perfect job, and I've got to start it, it all has to, they get all stressed out about it. But it's not a life sentence, guys. It's a pathway. It's part of what's going to make your life what it is. And she's right. Who do you want to be as a person? Not, I want to be in this little box. Because it'll all work out eventually, and it'll all make you a stronger and better person.
How long were you out of nursing for? A year or less?
I took a year off of nursing, yes. And I burnt myself out. It was my own fault. I was the person who, you have to learn your own boundaries. I love helping people, and one of my, if you ask me what my strength and my weakness is, I'm a workaholic, so I can get a ton done, but I'm a workaholic. And so, how I got burnt out is I was always picking up extra shifts, and if you're the one who always says yes, then they never stop asking you. And when you're working 60 hours in a week plus you're raising children, I just got burnt out. I got completely physically exhausted, but I knew that I was burnt out. I knew that I was burnt out enough that it was time to take a break from it. So I did. I took a year off.
And you didn't go to school during that time?
Nope.
You didn't get to take a year off from the children.
I didn't.
That's
I
24/7.
didn't.
That's,
Is there anything
that's
else
a big
out there?
job.
It's a weird microphone.
I'm your age, and it never works out for me. It's never perfect. I was just going to say, and so I'll try and project, but a lot of what I hear from you, and I am so thankful that you humbled yourselves and just came up there and basically naked to, be who you are, because it is, like you said, we are always that, we put on that front, like, oh, I'm so put together, and I came up here today without feathering my hair. But I think a lot of what you're saying, for all of you to take away, the important part is that they met all of these failures with a positivity. And whenever you take a failure and you just let that become a cancer in you, and you build an insecurity off of it, if you can't meet your failure with positivity, you won't grow and learn from it. You will just continue to digress. And so, bravo for taking all of your failures and growing and growing and growing and continuing to build on them, because if you can't find a support person, you are just going to have to be it yourself. But you can do it. It's not impossible. And so, big props, lots of respect and love. Thank you so much.
So I need to say that Carmen Basinger is one of our women. She's one of our women. She's a volunteer helping us today, and she has some great stories. So she's in the real estate, and she has her own real estate company. So if you want to pick her brain and talk to her, she's a great person to bounce things off of. Paige Parker, who is our original microphone faux pas. She's one of our women as well, and volunteered here today. And she's in the tech industry, so she's a great person to talk to if you're in the if you're in the tech industry, you have any questions. Recently moved to Austin, so she's on a journey herself. And then again, we're all eager and very willing to talk with anybody. So we do have a few more minutes. I thought we were just going to mix and mingle for a bit, unless there's anything else that anyone wants to ask or share in general. Is there something else?
Hi, my name is Preksha, and I would like to thank you all for coming here and sharing your valuable time with us. I had one question. How do you deal with the naysayers? Because as a woman, in my journey in the tech industry, or as a graduate student now at UT Tyler, even after coming from India to the US, I think I face the same issues of, since I'm a woman, my quota of naysayers is a bit more than a man would have if he ventured out to do something. Even though people don't say it out loud, like you can sense it. You can sense, like, you are a brown scrawny person and you want to do this thing. Like, how are you going to do that? And but then I have to remember that is what I set out to do, and I do that. I do accomplish it. But how, since you guys have more experience than me, and as we progress along this journey, there will be much more naysayers than there are now.
I think
how do you do that?
One of the things, I'll give you an example. I started a program at one of the hospitals called the Nurse Extern Program, and it's my own creation, and it's completely different than anything in the whole country. And I had a lot of naysayers, but for me, I let that drive me. I'm very stubborn, and the more that you tell me it's going to fail, that's exponentially how much I'm going to dive myself into it to prove you wrong. And so that's what I do with people, like, and I literally had people tell me, well, that will never work. Well, it has worked, and it's changed the retention. Newly licensed nurses across the country, the 1 to 2 year retention rate is 70%. And the Nurse Extern program, all the nurse externs that have been through the program, it's 98% retention. So it has worked, but you know, it's hard in the beginning, especially if you're starting something new that's not out there. There's nothing, like, you can't go back to this has been researched and I know that this works. You can't use evidence-based practice. You're basing it on your years of experience and what you see missing in the nursing profession. But for me, like, when people would say, well, that's never going to work. I literally had people telling me that. I kind of wanted to thank them, because sometimes you would be feeling that, but when someone else told me that, by George, I got my stubborn on. I am going to show you. It's going to make me work even harder to make it successful. So that's what I do when I hear naysayers. When I was in pathophysiology in nursing school, day one, this professor who also taught master's level, he said, I've never given an A. In my head, I'm going to get an A. That's what I told myself, because, like, don't tell me you can't ever do this. Don't tell me that. And I think as women, we need to have that perspective. I mean, we're in a society right now where we do have the ability, if we work hard, we can do whatever we want to. We are powerful. We are strong, guys. And so when someone tells you that, turn it around and, like, let it drive you. That's what I do.
Taking the negative energy
Yes,
and turning
let
it
it
into
drive
positive
you.
energy. I know, Paige, I was thinking about you. I'm
I
like,
have one
yeah.
is, okay, I don't need a microphone for this time. So, I am analytical, also workaholic. I saw a lot of heads nodding with that. I know when I'm wrong and I know when I'm right. Like, and occasionally there's like a fluke here and there where I'm actually wrong and I thought I was right, but it's not that often. And because I do the research, right? I vet it out. I bring an A paper, and you said it rhymed. I've never done that. That I have to say, it was kind of cool. I am like so frustrated with this. I bring them to the fountain, and I'm like, I really did just save you money and give you less brain damage. All of this, but like, you know what? Like, I don't know what it is. You talked about walls earlier, Ruthie. Like, there are different walls too. There are walls of bias, right? For females in the tech industry, for instance, just to name one. Like, I am so analytical. Guys just throw down their stupid quotes and put 20 minutes into it and let their admin pull it together. I've done a total cost analysis over a 5-year spend, and I know I'm right. Why are you not listening to me? Like, I brought you logic. It's on paper. You have what? You're just not available next week? Are you serious? I just dumped 3 weeks into this and you don't care, really, do you? You just, why, how do you overcome that? Because I am stuck on this in life.
Ruthie, I'd love to hear some
for your, because I mean, for being so young, you have this sage wisdom, and I think that, some of it comes from your experience and your family and stuff, but what are your thoughts on that?
I can't, so you can't make someone listen to you. You can't. That's their decision. You can maybe embarrass them when they're wrong, or not on purpose, but you will, when you're right, and they,
that, you can't shape them into it.
you can't. And so, like, sorry for the most part, but so what I would tell you and kind of all of us, my favorite, like my hero on this is Brene Brown. I don't know if y'all listen to
I've watched the TED Talks.
Oh, girl.
I still don't know how to overcome.
So there's this, she talked to this design school about kind of the fear of creating. You're in this creative field, and every time you bring something forth, it's vulnerability. It's like the worst, she uses this analogy like you're going into the arena. And people are just watching you be vulnerable, and I mean you're doing something like design or something you've created. It's like going in naked. It's not like you get to armor up. But what she said is, one, just in her life personally, she doesn't let people bring criticism that aren't in the arena themselves. So don't let someone on the sideline, she calls them the cheap seats, don't let someone in the cheap seats give you criticism. I mean, you can be respectful to them, certainly, but know that their criticism isn't very valid. What I would suggest to you is find a couple people, we say this over and over again, that are in the arena, and let them speak truth. And your criticism, the criticism that you see, reserve seats for them and know that they will be there. Maybe address them before or after. But you need to just handle that. And you need to not give their words necessarily the weight that they want them to be. And you can't make them listen. You can be right, and hopefully when you're right and they're wrong enough times, they'll say, that girl, I used to tell people, every once in a while when it got really bad, like a male, one of my interns who was a guy who wouldn't respect me, I would say, I am blind copied on every email you get. I don't think you realize the power that I have. So every once in a while you have to throw your weight around, but at the end of the day, you cannot make people listen to you. You just need to give their words the weight that they deserve. And oftentimes that's you. You're like the pressure regulator going, thanks, no. You I'll listen to. That's what you need to do.
Sometimes in nursing, in order to get people's attention, when you think about, have any of you been in the hospital? Have any of you been patients? Okay, so one of the biggest jobs as a nurse is getting people to do what they need to do to get better. And one of the techniques that I use, and I will literally say it to people, I'll say, now here's what's in it for you. Like if you can find that piece, with whatever you're
That's
pressing.
on the paper too.
Yeah.
I swear to God,
Yeah.
it is.
But
For
she's
all
right.
the roles in their company and how it benefits you.
If they won't listen, they won't. So if you've done everything, then maybe they're not the right person.
And I will add to that.
Volume is what I have to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like I have to talk to more people because there's like this chunk of people that want to have their walls and have their bias.
Right.
And do what they've always done.
There are people that will listen though.
There are.
I'll tell you that. Someone that picked a little, not even graduated from nutrition degree and said, you will be my executive of community development. I've had really great men believe in me and mentor me. And so, yes, like you're not going to make them listen, but there are good men that will listen to you out there. And it might be time to just find those, honestly.
We're actually over time, but I wanted Cherie to kind of wrap it up for us because, you've been in business, you've run your own business for years, so I don't know if there's something you can kind of touch base on this, how to make people listen or be more effective. But if you can just speak to that, and then we'll wrap it up. But I'm so grateful for everyone, but anything to add in there?
As far as, I look at her and I think she's the one that asked the question about even being from another country. To move here is the bravest thing. I lived here all my life. Easy for me to do a lot of different things, but for many of you girls, you are foreign, in a foreign land, and you want to be one of. And I admire that strength, that courage to launch out on a different planet, on a different world. And I can't even imagine with all your family back here, and I've got my mommy right here. So am I blessed? Yeah. Are you blessed? Because there are so many women here that want to see you succeed. They are open to you. They are not judging you. You're not a foreign person. And I have found if you live out your life large and be who you are, whether you're gay in Tyler, Texas, and a builder who's only built 4 houses, so I'm really more of a remodeler. So, you know, I want to be all that. I want to be perfect looking to you guys. I want to be, and I wore the Chanel so I could look fabulous. But you know, I'm just another girl. I'm just one of you, and you're just one of me. And we all want to make it in this crazy damn world, so don't be afraid to reach out. That's the whole thing here, is reach out, embark on your life, but it's okay to ask for help all along the way, because trust me, I've asked many people to help, sometimes bankers, but, you know, because some of your failures are, you know, money, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to start, and look at these other women around here that have come from the other end of the world, and, you know, they're way out of their comfort zone. And so don't be afraid to get out of the box.
I think that is a perfect place to end. And please, let's applaud the ladies for sharing. And thank you all for coming. And we have something.
So, on behalf of the Graduate School and the Graduate Student Association, I would like to thank Crystal for hosting this event, and to all the panelists for coming here and literally wearing their heart on the sleeve and sharing one of the most honest advice that as a young person, anybody could have. And these are the opportunities that as an international student here in America that I took that leap of faith, or many of us for that matter took that leap of faith and landed in a foreign land. It was to be in the company of such like-minded people, to be in the company of such powerful women who have gotten shit done in their life. Don't mind the profanity, who have gotten shit done in their life. And that is so inspiring. So yeah, I would like to thank you for being here and for being who you are and for inspiring us and being willing to reach out and for taking us in, for offering your guidance. And that is awesome.
I'm a graduate student. Finally. See, Mother?
I use this bag like almost all the time. I have one that very kind.
You use it every day.
I do. I pretty much use it every day. So I love it.
Let's not forget.
Thank you.
Let's not forget the wonderful man who's sitting over there, who has been recording this event.
I want to compliment all of you for this. I think you're very, very smart. When I was 20 years old, which was a long time ago, I was not in this position. And over the years, you'll learn. You do take one day at a time, one step at a time, and one success and one failure at a time. But over the years, you'll learn a lot more even than you know today.
That was really good.
And I just wanted to throw out there, I'm always doing this to my good friend Sharon, who is a graduate from UT Tyler, but she's from a foreign land as well, and she's just a wonderful resource and just so kind and gracious. And I would say anybody, but any international students, I think she would be just happy to talk with any of you, just share some of her wisdom. But thank you all again so much. And I have a few minutes to spare, but I think we probably need to vacate the room. So maybe do that out there. But thank you again so much.